I would like to take a moment and introduce a few friends to you. As I looked across the audience, there were some of our teachers that decided that they would like to come and see what was being recorded on this evening. So if I may, have them stand. Please stand up. These are some of the staff that we employ, the dedicated employees who work every day to deal with our children with disabilities. To start with, I'll give you a little background. I was hired in July 1st, 2003. I think Andy was here at the time of my hire. When I was hired, I was given a main directive by the Board of Education to reduce the number of out-of-district special education placements, or to assure that we were able to provide appropriate instruction for students at risk for academic failure. That has expanded to not only children with disabilities, but all children, with all of the movement we've done in the areas of SRBI, early intervention, and special education. And one of my other goals was to make sure that we were very refined in our diagnostic assessment practices and procedures to more accurately identify students with disabilities. So we're going to do a bit of a history lesson along with where we're at, because the title of this is Where We Were and Where Are We Now? So I want to take a look at what we looked like back in 2003. In 2003, we had a total of 517 special education students. 2010-11, last school year, 431. Out-of-district placements. In 2003-2004, there were 31 students placed out of district. 2010-11, 23. Now, one of the things that we really need to focus on, however, is that's the history lesson. We need to look at how our children are doing, because that's really where the rubber meets the road. If our kids are not learning, then we're not successful in anything that we do. So let's examine how they're learning. One of the greatest measures of learning that we have, that we look at on an annual basis, are the Connecticut mastery tests. And so we compare our progress year after year on reading and math and writing for our children in the district, by school, and by this particular subgroup called Children with Disabilities or Special Education. In 2005-06, as far as back as I could go in making an accurate comparison to current results, 47% of our children in special education were reaching proficiency in the area of reading. To date, we have 76.2% reaching proficiency. So one of the things that we've really emphasized since I've been here is how much time do our children with disabilities spend with their peers? And these are the results. In 2003-2004, our children were spending 64.6% of their day on average in a regular classroom. Currently, we are at 83.7%. It's a familiar shot. Folks can recognize this. This is the playground in front of the Reed Intermediate School. About 5-6 years ago, we had a student in the district who had significant disabilities, who had never been included in a regular environment. And we asked the question, how do we make this happen? And the staff at the Reed School, along with Dr. Blackman, who was working for us as the inclusion facilitator at the time, address the issue of what do we need to put in place to include this child in a typical setting. They accomplished that job. They got this kid into a regular setting. A child in that classroom was so moved by having the experience of being educated with this student, went home and told her father. Her father was so moved, he called the principal. Donna Denniston called me and said, guess what? This father just did. He donated a playground because he was so moved by the experience of his daughter. And that's how this playground came into existence. The total number of planning and placement team meetings in 2010-11, 1,243. That's a significant amount of time individuals are planning as teams with parents for the education of our children on an individual basis. When issues do arise and there's no ready way to solve them at the PPT level, there are some ways for resolving those issues. The first one is referred to as a resolution meeting. And essentially that's a meeting between the district and the parent to try to identify the problem outside of the PPT process and come up with some plan to resolve it. Second is a parent has the ability to file a complaint against the district. And a complaint made to the State Department of Ed is done for compliance reasons. A complaint is made if we have promised to do something and we are not doing it. And the state has the mandate to make sure we are complying with our promises, what's written into the IEP. Another process might be through a mediation. In that case, the State Department of Ed sends a mediator to us, and the parents in the district will try to work out a problem and come up with a solution. And finally, the place that none of us like to get to, which is a due process hearing, and that's where there's a state-appointed hearing officer who will hear what is going on and make a decision on behalf of the child. Since 2003, we have had 15 settlement agreements arrived at through mediation. We have had 9 due process hearings. We have had 2 resolution meetings, and we have had 4 complaints filed against the district that we have had to respond to. One of the complaints was filed by the district against the district. I filed a complaint against us to make sure that we were in compliance with an issue that I really felt needed to be brought to the attention of the State Department of Ed with their assistance to make sure we were doing what we promised we should be doing.